All right. Thank you so much for downloading today. What we're going to go ahead and do right now is go ahead and do a quick comparative market analysis and start to figure out the value of a property that I recently saw today. Now, if you've been watching this video, then you'll know the property we just saw this morning, or I should say this afternoon, was an inherited property, and we went ahead and took a look at that property. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and look on the Tucson multiple listing service. Now you'll notice here I'm not looking at Zillow or Zestimate or anything like that. What instead I'm doing is looking on the multiple listing service to get a better accurate view of what the property is actually worth, because Zestimate, as you know, is not always accurate. Many times it is several percentage points off of the actual value. And when I'm trying to go ahead and work with somebody who's got an inherited property, I recognize that there's a lot of value, a lot of equity that they're trying to keep on the table here. So they want to make sure that they don't lose. So what I'm trying to do here today is make sure we get an accurate idea of what a property is worth. So what I'm going to do is just go on the multiple listing service here and go ahead and enter in an MLS number of a property that had recently sold not too far from our subject property. Now the property that you saw earlier today is actually in a very small subdivision. You'll notice that there's not too many homes in that area that have sold, and so because of this, it makes it a little bit more difficult, if you will, to determine a value. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see here, I'm just looking for things within 1 mile, a radius search of that, because that's what a typical appraiser would do, was search for like properties within 1 mile. So they go on the multiple listing service just like we're doing today. They're pulling up the very same data that I am using. They get their data from the multiple listing service. They search it just the same way I do. As you can see, there are 2,500 something properties that fit in that 1 mile area that have either been on the market, pending, closed, something along those lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to narrow this down just a little bit. Now there's 3 things that you'll want to make sure you pay attention to when you're trying to determine the value of your property. Obviously, first you want to make sure that you're using comparables that are like kind. So in this particular circumstance, the first thing that's going to make a difference in what a home is worth is obviously making sure that we're using apples to apples types of comparisons. Here we're talking about simply residential properties. We see that there's 2,000 something of them. So what we're going to do is just narrow this down. This particular, that's an awful lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to change a couple things. First, we're going to say within a particular date range. So everything that's happened within, say, the last 6 months. Let's see what's happened. Boom. That makes it down to 71. All right, that's a little bit more accurate. Now, let's add a couple other fields. How about year built, right? Because we don't want to talk about homes that are built in 2000 with this particular property. This property was built in 77. So we're going to talk about homes from, say, 1967 to approximately 1987. You're only going to go about 10 years on either side to get really a good idea of what you're talking about. This particular property is right over here just south of Hardy, but north of McGee, and just east of Northern here, as you can see. So what we're going to do is we're just going to select this little spot right here. Boom, boom, and all the way up to here, right? These are the closest properties to the subject. Now, why this is important is because these particular properties in La Cholla Hills, even though they're built in the 70s, 60s, time frame, that's a lot different subdivision than the Hacienda del Felix in this area, right? Santa Fe Park, much different than Cañada Verde. So what we're going to do is we're just going to keep it to this little square, right? So we can see kind of what we're working with. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get rid, if you'll bear with me for 2 seconds, boom, let's get rid of this 1 mile radius thing. There, limits it down to just those properties. Now we're talking about 9 properties in that area that are at least residential properties. Now we're just going to narrow it down a little bit more. We probably could work from here. Let's just see what we got. That 9's probably good enough. Let's just see. I usually try to get about 6 or 7 comps at the most, just so I can get kind of a good idea of what's going on in the neighborhood. Okay, so what we see here in this particular subdivision, now again, I'm just going to show you a map real fast so you'll see what we're dealing with here. These 9 properties are either currently on the market or have sold in the last 6 months. or currently under contract, one or the other, right? And so this will give us an idea of what the market itself is doing. The property that we're dealing with is right in this northeastern corner over here, so it's a little easier for us to find. So what we're going to do is figure out then what are homes worth in that area. Let's just take a quick one-line CMA look. This will give us one line so we can see what we're working with here from a bird's eye perspective. We see Rancho Feliz is a subdivision in here. Ranchos de la Cañada is another. This place on Tovar Place is the only one that's currently active. It's 335,1995 square feet. It's been on the market for 5 entire days. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, single story with a pool, 2-car garage, 2-car carport on 0.84 of an acre, built in 74 with no guest house, air conditioner in that subdivision. Okay, this home's been on the market 5 days at $167 a square foot. Now I know a lot of people tend to look at this dollar per square foot thing, but I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I buy property all the time, and dollar per square foot's not exactly the way to go because you never really know the story behind it. So for example, you know, if somebody went to Las Vegas, let's say, and I don't know, they did something they shouldn't have done, and now they came back and they have to get a divorce, they have to sell their property very, very quickly. I'm not saying that that's what happened here, but you can see that this one sold for $291,000. They were asking $299,000. They sold it for cash in 3 days, and that particular property has 1,675 square feet. That one, I'm not sure how much that is. Yeah, $173 a square foot. Now, does that mean that that's what this home should sell for? Should it sell for $173 a square foot? Well, no. I mean, just because it's roughly the same size, this one is, what, how many square feet? Oh, no, it's not. I guess it's not. It's 1,995 square feet, so it's not really even the same size. It's about 300 feet smaller or larger than the one we're looking at. This would be a better example, 340, right? You can see this was listed for $329, sold for $340, $1,932, $175 a square foot, yet they're at $167. Does this mean that they're the same thing or a better deal? Well, yes, no, maybe so. It's hard to say. This one sold in a single day, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. Certainly looks like it's a better deal. $335, it looks like that's what they're pricing it for, right? $340. Let me just go ahead and zoom this up a little bit so we can see what we're talking about here and not have to squint. There we go. It's a different subdivision, as you can see, Sunset Estates, right? As opposed to this one, which is in Ranchos de Cañada. But let's take a look at the property we're really trying to figure out the information about, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath property with 1,700 square feet. The property that we're looking at is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, single story, with a pool. This one doesn't have a pool, has a 2-car garage, carport. Let's see here. What else? So it sold in 2 days. This one's 1,700 square feet, $300,000 on Loesta in Rancho Feliz. So it sold for $300,000 in 2 days. Well, at least it's pending anyway. It could be less than 300, but in 2 days' time, that's probably not the case. They probably got 300 or maybe even a little bit more. They might have got more than one offer. Who knows? Placida Poza sold in 5 days, 1,330 square feet, $259,000. So it looks like the 1,700s type of square footage goes from anywhere from like 290 on the low end as far as sold is concerned, and maybe 300-ish as far as pending, right? For homes of that sort of style. Now this home doesn't have a pool, but the one over here, 1,600, let's see, does that have a pool? No, it doesn't have a pool. Okay, so neither one of these has a pool, but the property we're dealing with does have a pool. So that's something to consider. All right, let's look back at this. Whoops. Let's minimize this a little bit so we can actually, there we go. All right, let's look at these properties individually just so I can kind of get an idea. Now, what I'm going to be doing is making an offer here in a few minutes on this property, but I need to figure out what the property is worth once I sell it. Now, the property, as you know, is going to need a lot of work, as you saw. So I'm going to need to figure out how much work it's ultimately going to need. I think it's probably going to need in the neighborhood of 40 to 45,000 is what I'm thinking in terms of repairs. And I haven't seen the interior yet, but I'm just kind of basing that off what I've done in the past. I might be wrong, and once we get inside, we'll know. But the three things you need to know when you're trying to figure out the price of something or the value of something, or three things are the comparables, which we're looking at now. The second thing is the condition or repairs, which we just talked about, which I'm figuring 40 to 45,000. And then the strategy. What am I actually going to do with the property? Now, in this particular circumstance, the estate would like to be paid off in cash. They don't want to do any kind of owner financing. So obviously I'm going to need to purchase this at a price that's going to need to make sense where I can turn around and sell it. And as you saw, homes are selling in that area for in the neighborhood of $290 to $300. So let's just take a look at the $290,000 property. This is 1,675 square feet. It was listed for $299. It sold for $291. The listing agent on that particular case was Elizabeth Ann Santasieri. I probably butchered her name, and I apologize. She's over at Crossover Realty. Shout out to her. Congrats to her for selling that property. Took her, I think it was 2 days, was it? See, Heidi Guyton was the buying agent on that one. Good for her. She represented the buyer. Let's see here. So it was sold 10/29/2019, so last October, in 3 days, right? They sold it for cash, right? And they purchased it at $291,000 with no concessions. So the seller didn't pay any kind of concessions, and in this particular circumstance, they put it on the multiple listing service, and they had paid the agents. I'm going to guess, as you can see here, the co-op agent, Heidi Guyton, the buyer's agent, was paid 3% of $291,000, which is the sales price. So that was her commission, and I'm going to suspect that if this was like a typical listing that I've seen over the years, then they probably split the commission in half. So Elizabeth probably got 3%, 2%, something along those lines, maybe even 4%, who knows. But either way, there was probably around a 6% commission paid on that $291,000. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I'm trying to buy this property. Let's take a look at it and see what it actually looked like. Let's see here. We got 19 photographs. That's kind of nice. All right, so we can see here the little garage. You see how they got that wall? I was telling you at the house they needed to get the wall in there because that's kind of a standard thing people want, right? Plus you got those double pane windows. Okay, here's the kitchen. All right, so we can see it's got those Satillo tile in there and the old style cabinets, so it's not really been, updated per se. It's certainly clean. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not dirty in any way. But for a retail sale, I mean, this is a property that, it's move-in ready. I mean, somebody's going to buy it. It's going to need, obviously, a little bit of repainting. You got purple and whatnot in there, and the new owners probably replaced the carpet and things of that nature. You can see here they got 2 different tiles. You got regular straight tile here, and then they've got the Saltillo tile in there, so they got 2 or 3 different kinds of flooring in there. When you're trying to sell something that's see, they upgraded the bathroom sink there. That's something from Home Depot, Lowe's, something along those lines, it looks like. The backyard is larger. It's certainly larger. No pool. No covered patio. That's kind of a disadvantage there. Let's see here. Okay, kind of a nice little setup. Nice yard. Nice, fat, big yard. Okay, good deal. So $290,000 for a retail price for a home that's move-in ready. Well, it's not completely remodeled, move-in ready, but it's something you could move in and fix, things up over time and repaint it and put it the way you want it. So a buyer who, could physically own this property, and that would be the representative price. So let's take a look at the other property that we saw. We saw this one. This one is in that general area as well. I think this one was this the right one? 1,995 square feet. So this is a little bit larger than the one that we're looking at. The one we're looking at is 1,700 square feet, but this one also has a pool. It has a 2-car garage with a 2-car carport. Let's see, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, built in 74, 0.84 acres, active contingent, which means that it now has a contract on it. They're going through their inspection period. They were listed at $335,000. Let's see here. It took them 5 days to get it under contract, so that's good. Let's see. 335 is what they're asking. They're offering out 3% commission, so I'm going to guess. Let's see. Is this? Yeah, it's EXP Realty, so it's, who knows? I mean, they might have charged 5, 6, 7. Who knows what they charge? I mean, it's completely negotiable, but you figure it's probably 2 at the minimum that they've got on their end, so it's a minimum of a 5% commission. It's probably 6 that they're paying. They paid it. I'm sorry. They got a contract in 5 days, which gives you the indication that obviously sold very quickly. So there probably wasn't a lot of negotiations done. They probably paid full price, buyers, that is, right? This home looks like it has been redone a bit, though. I mean, it's fresh paint. It's certainly clean. Wow, look at those windows. Ooh, that is pretty. I like that blue. Ooh, look at that. Wow. Oh, this is clean. Okay. Now, this is something that you need to consider. Okay, so if I'm going to try and sell this property, the property that we're looking at, the subject property, if I'm going to try and sell it, I'm going to upgrade it to something like this, right? With the floors, the paint, removal of any kind of popcorn ceiling, things of that nature. I'm going to remove all of that, and I'm going to upgrade the house. Look at the kitchen, right? I bet we're going to be surprised. Yeah, there it is. Like, look at that. Completely clean. And they're picking this up for $335,000. Now remember, the people who bought the other property bought it for $45,000 cheaper, and it's 300 feet smaller, right? So this instantly tells me that $335,000 is a good price, a good price for this property here. But I don't know if this one has a pool or not. Wow, that's pretty though. Real pretty. It looks like what they did is they had an add-on. This is the add-on, it looks like. Okay, nice little extension. It's pretty. All right. Oh, nope, they do have a pool. Okay. So the property that we're dealing with has this is very similar. So you could kind of say, if you had our subject property with a little bit of an addition, then this could be a real good ringer for it once you fix the pool up. Look at this pool. It's all been redone. It's got a new spa in there. I think that's Pebble Tech. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe not. But the rest of the yard is like a blank palette. So that's active contingent right now. So when I'm looking to buy a property, I know that in the next coming months after I put this home on the market, there's going to be people who are going to want to buy it. But the problem is that, I'm going to have to be sure I'm not going to overprice myself out of this when I buy it. So $259,000 is for this one. That's 1,330 square feet. It's a little bit too small. Here's the other one, 300, I think that we were looking at. Yeah, 1,700 square feet like our subject. 2-car garage like our subject. It's an Adobe property. Our subject's not an Adobe home. This one's out in Rancho Feliz, which is a lot different of a neighborhood. It's very nice. All right, let's take a look at this property too. This is currently pending. Now, pending, in case you've not heard the status before, you've got active, which is currently for sale. Active contingent, meaning that it has a property contract on it, but they are, they're contingent. They're waiting for something to happen, usually the inspections, the appraisals, something like that. And then you have pending, which is what this property is. And pending is where the property, they've done their inspections, they've done their appraisals, now they're just getting ready to close. It looks like this particular property, it's got a little bit of sunken floor there. That was very common back in that day. $300,000, you got several different floor types. The kitchen's kind of not really been upgraded. You can see this is all that I expect when we open up the house and look at the inside for the first time, the subject property, I'm going to suspect that it's going to have something like this. Let's see. Maybe not in as good as condition, but this property is not too shabby, right? I mean, it's a little dated. Certainly needs some updating, but it's certainly habitable. It's nothing wrong with it. Yard's big enough. Doesn't really have a pool. Looks like it might have had a pool at one time though. Is Does that not look like it maybe used to have I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, maybe not. Yeah, I guess not. Let's see. Good large lot. 300,000. Okay. Ooh, that is a big lot. Nice big. Oh, that right there too. So you remember that view I was telling you about when we looked at the house? That's exactly the view. That's a killer view. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual listing itself. All right, so 300,000 pending. Don Valley, good friend of mine, good man. I like him a lot. He's over at Long Realty. Shout out to Don, good man. Sold this in 2 days. Good job. Listed it for 300,000. Co-op fee was 3%, so he's probably charging 5-6%, something along those lines. Let's see. Who knows? It's completely negotiable. Who only knows? Let's see. So, but 2 days. That shows you that was a very good price. Somebody saw that and went ahead and snapped that right up, which is exactly what I'm kind of looking to do. So it looks like, as I mentioned, you got three things. You got comparables, the condition, and then your strategy. What are you going to do with the property once you purchase it? So for me, I'm not going to live in it, so I'm not going to purchase it with the intent to buy it and live in it, make it really pretty. No, I'm intending to buy it and do some repairs and then sell it. And that's really what I'm going to do. And this appears to be my competitor at 335. That is a really nice house with a pool. So what is his house worth? Well, let's narrow this down. Now, I know some of the people out there are still kind of people who like to do the price per square foot thing, so we're going to do that just as a quick example for you. Now, I'm going to extend this sold date because there's only a couple properties that I think they're going to fit this, but what we're going to do is we're just going to look back 18 months this time, right? And this is going to be very brief. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you and go through the whole thing again. What we're going to do this time is we're going to change the main the square footage, right? So the main house square footage, we're going to say the maximum is 1,800 because the property we're dealing with is 1,700. So we're going to say 1,600 to 1,800. So 10% either way, give or take, right? Now that gives us 6 houses. And if I was going to go for a listing, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 6 comparables, 3 actives and 3 solds. But in this particular case, in the northwest side, there's not a whole lot active right now. So we're going to just go with solds, and that's going to tell us a lot about what homes like this one are worth. And we see that 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,800 square foot, 251, all the way up to 392, right? 392, well, that's 2,500 something square feet. That one has a guest house in it, it looks like. So these particular 5 are really what we're really interested in, just the 1,700 square foot places. So what we're going to do is we're going to just pick all these, get rid of that one. That'll leave us with the 5 that are 1,700, between 1,600 and 1,700 square feet. And then we will just do the old CMA thing one more time, the one-line CMA. And that will give us our price per square foot thingy, so you can see that. And that'll give you the peace of mind knowing that we looked at it, right? So check it out, 300,000. We looked at that one, that property already. We see this one on Placida Feliz for 250, 1,800 square feet, conventional, 77 days, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, no pool. Let's see. And they got these 2 here. Emerine Place, VA loan, 14 days, 74 days, 3-2 with a pool. Okay, interesting. So that one sold for 190 dollars a square foot. All right, this is why you don't want to follow this stuff. Look, see how this one sold for 190 a square foot when everything else is like 130 for the low end, and the median there is like 173, 174. So if you're going to go by price per square foot, right, then 139, is really what you're looking at. So that's $140 a square foot. So, I'm not a mathematician or anything, but let me just whip out the calculator really quick. $140 a square foot times 1,700 square feet is $238,000. So that'll kind of give you an idea. If you were to go price per square foot, then we should offer $238,000 is what that property is worth. But that's not going to do us any good if we put, say, $30,000 into it, $40,000, $45,000 into it, and we pay $238,000. So 238 plus 45,000 is 283,000. By the time we end up trying to sell it at 300 and say 310 at the most, then that's going to be a problem. You're not going to be able to sell it for that much. You could potentially sell this one on Emerine Place, but that's going to be with guest quarters. That's going to be really tough to do. You know, I just don't know. All right, so good thing to know. These properties on average sell in 42 days. The price differential, they get on average 98% of their asking price. So what is this house worth? What is it really worth in terms of an investment property? Okay. This one sold for 251, and now we'll finally look at this one more thing here, and then we'll have a better idea. We look at the tax information of the lowest selling one, right? We see 251,000. Okay. What I was looking for is to see if there was anything in particular that any subsequent deeds, like it had been transferred to somebody else, that they'd purchased it like from an investor or a wholesaler or something along those lines. It doesn't look like that was the case. So it looks like they purchased it as their own place to live for $251,000. Now, if I'm going to try and buy this property, it's worth, realistically, you know, once I repair it and get it all cleaned up and ready to sell, I mean, there's the $339,000 place. I mean, you could see, let's take a look at this one real quick, see what, wow, that's pretty dramatic. That's a circular pool. This pool doesn't have that. Wow, that's a pretty dramatic entry. And look at that flooring. Okay, that's one floor. Huh, interesting. Okay, got that marble sort of an upgrade there. Wow, okay. That's another kind of flooring. So that's 1, 2, 3 floors, right? And then they got this back. Oh, okay, so this is probably, well, no, that's not. That's just a regular old Arizona room. Okay. And they got a spa right there, it looks like. That's another floor. That's 4. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, 320 is not looking so bad after all. Okay. Well, this is interesting. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of indoor spas like that. I know some people are, but I'm not a big fan of it. I don't know. You have to be into it, I think. Yeah, I think that's sometimes why you might have a little trouble if you have a property like that with those little stairs and inner spas and stuff like that. I mean, some people, they're just, it's a little bit of a tougher sell when you have something like that, at least in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, and I frequently am, but that's just the way I kind of see it. Okay, so this particular property listed Howard Roth, good agent. I know him, good man in town. Got a good name. Took 74 days. Yeah, you can see how it takes a little bit longer when you've got a funkier floor plan, an inner spa, 3 or 4 different kinds of floors. Yeah, you can see how like this particular one sold 300,000, 2 weeks. So what happened? These particular properties were on the same market at the same time. Status change 10/2. So October 2nd was when they got their offer. And these people got their offer 2 months prior. Okay, so the people who bought this house knew about this house. So when they saw this house come on the market at $300,000 within 2 weeks in this condition, then it got a contract and sold. Yeah, it's in it's in good condition. I mean, look at it go. 2 different kind of floors, but they're, well, 3. That's 3 different floors, but the kitchens are done tastefully. I got 4 floors, yeah. All right. and an older style bathroom. Okay, so really, honestly, if this property was just cleaned up and if it's still operational, it's probably worth in the neighborhood of $290, I'm guessing. Yeah, look at the walls on that one. The subject property is probably worth in the neighborhood of, look at that pool. That's pretty nice. Yeah, the subject property is probably worth in the neighborhood of $280 to $300 in its current condition. But now we've got to figure out what is it going to be worth to me in order to buy it, because now we know that on the MLS something like this sells for $300 in this kind of condition. The subject property is not in that kind of condition, but it wouldn't take a whole lot to get it into this condition. Whereas if you were to try and really ball out, you know, and make it look pretty like that other first property, then like the 335 property, then that might be one thing. But this one's not really a good comparable either, because the pool and the spa and whatnot. So realistically, the house in its current condition, yeah, I'd say it's probably worth $280, maybe $290 or something, depending on the interior condition. So now we just got to figure out what it's worth to me. And so that is the next video. But yeah, there's the comparables right there. If I say it's worth, let's say 280, let me just take a quick look at that, what that would be. 280, boom, 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 divided by 1,770 or 80 square feet, let's say. It's $157 a square foot is what I think it's probably worth in its current condition. And the cheapest property right now is on El Tovar at $167. And then there was this other one on Morning View that sold for $109 a square foot, but that was a 2,800 square foot place. That's a lot bigger. All right, so that's what we're going to do right now is we're going to start taking a look at the values relative to what I'm going to offer. I know this was a little bit of a longer one, but I hope this was valuable to you. And if it was, do me a favor, share it on your social network. And as always, have a powerful sales day.